So you're thinking of selling your house. What you should know is 70% of people actually hire the first real estate agent that they even speak to. And I'm going to tell you why this is a mistake. And I'm going to actually give you the 15 questions you should consider asking any real estate agent that you're entrusting to actually sell your most valuable asset. So I don't know what world we're living in. Most consumers think that every real estate agent is exactly the same. But the truth is your results could vary just across the gamut on if you hire this person or this person or this person. So it's kind of like going back to that contracting world. People say to get 3 bids if you're looking to get your roof replaced. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about just asking the right questions to make sure that if you see any red flags, that you should be very careful about entrusting your sale in that person. So 15 different things. Let's start with the really obvious ones, right? How many homes have you sold in the last year or in the last, for your career? And it could be an awkward question to ask, but there's a way to approach this in a scenario where you have somebody come over and just gauge their experience level. So how's the market been? Asking them questions about what they've seen out there really will let you get an idea of if they sell a lot of houses. And I'm not saying you have to hire somebody who's sold all the houses in the world, but the whole point is just know if the person's experienced or not, and whether or not they have a plan. So question number 2 would be to ask is, what does your marketing plan look like? What is your strategy for selling a house? What you're going to be looking for is the non-traditional methods. So traditional methods are put it in the MLS, have a sign out front, maybe with some flyers, maybe do an open house. But no, what are the things outside of that you're going to do specifically? Are you going to call around the neighborhood? Are you going to do any direct mail? Are you going to do any digital advertising that's actual advertising? Because what I can tell you is most real estate agents will say that they do advertising, but what it really is a lot of often just posting it on social media. And when you do that advertising, is there a process for that advertising? What happens after the launch weekend? Do you advertise it again? So these are some of the questions you can ask, and I would get real specific with it if you can. So by specific, I mean is if they have a marketing campaign, can you show me the marketing campaign? Can you demo it for me on the computer, or can you show me something that's printed out where I can see specifically the steps that you're going to take to actually sell the property? A very good next question is to gauge if they've sold homes in that particular area. I can tell you how many times that I go and view a property with a buyer, and I can tell the listing agent is actually in a completely different market. So we're in Thurston County, Washington. Sometimes they could be 2 counties away that the listing agent has listed the property. And I can actually tell based off of how they've marketed it and their knowledge of the area. Real estate is a very nuanced business. That if you don't have specific market knowledge about the particular area, it could be a very big detriment to you as the homeowner. So it'd be, do you have experience selling homes that are like mine in this location? And can you show me what those look like? So this 5th question is really important. If they do not actually show you comparable sales and actually demonstrate to you very clearly how they arrived at a purchase price figure, I know that when we do it, it is not just a printout with a bunch of numbers. Okay, it's going through pictures of comparable properties. It's actually explaining the nuance as to how this house compares to your house, meaning maybe this house is 300 square feet bigger than yours, maybe yours has a bigger backyard, maybe you've updated the kitchen, all those things, those extra nuances, if they don't take the time to actually explain any of that to you, then you can't have a lot of faith in their analysis. So essentially the question would be, how do you determine, the correct listing price for my property, and what is the strategy around that listing price? Because there are different strategies. Some people will list the house at market value, you get a predictable outcome in a predictable time frame. Some people will choose to list the house for a little bit less to actually create kind of an auction-like effect for the property, and then some people will actually choose to purposely price the house a little high, thinking they can always drop the price, right? Or give the buyer some extra incentive or some credits. And so what is the specific strategy that you recommend to sell my house? A very good question too is, what is the average time frame that you sell most of your properties in based off of your strategy? How longer do you anticipate that we would be on the market, and why? So are we based off of the pricing strategy, do you think we'll be on the market for a long time? Do you think it will be a short time frame? It's just getting really crystal clear with what we're actually, as a team, entering into this process to do together, because it should always be a team, you and the real estate agent. It should always be you on the same page with the strategy. It shouldn't be that the realtor comes over, they're saying like, I'm the pro, I'm gonna figure everything out for you and you don't have to worry. That's a major red flag for you. A really important thing is understanding what their negotiation strategy is as well. Meaning, let's say you list the house and offers come in. What does that look like? You know, the duty of an agent is to actually disclose to you all those terms right away, just so you know. But what does it look like overall? If there's more people interested in the property, are we going to let them look at the property? Are we going to still open houses? And I'm speaking in terms of like, you list the house on a Friday and you get an offer on Friday night, right? What does that look like if this scenario were to unfold? Because I can tell you some agents will encourage you just to accept an asking price offer right away. And there'll be other agents that will encourage you to explore the market maybe another day or two just to see if they can get you higher terms. You can actually earn a better offer on your house over time, leveraging that agent's negotiation skills. One of the most important things is to make sure you have clarity on if your house were to sell at a particular price, what that looks like for you with your estimated net proceeds at the end. So this is going to be the wire or the check or what the amount that you get at the escrow when it's all finished. So what are the expectations for out-of-pocket expenses during the process, and what do you anticipate that my estimated proceeds will look like? Is a very good question to ask, because not every realtor will actually give you that information up front. And it's not because they're keeping it from you, it's because they just don't have it built into their process to where they do it every time. And for you, that's really important, because if you are making plans to move, wouldn't it be helpful if you had a range of outcomes on what that would look like? So let's say you have a $500,000 house. What does it look like if you sell the house for $500,000? What does it look like if you sell it for $510,000? What does it look like if you sell it for a little bit less at $490,000? What does that range of outcomes look like, so that you can start to make plans because you have a number of exactly your range of outcome and how much money you're going to take from the sale? That should all be done up front, not figuring it out as you go, not figuring it out afterwards, figuring it out in advance so that you can properly plan to understand what offers you're willing to accept and at what terms. Another good question to ask is, what are you going to do to help me make sure that this house shows really well in person and online? You know, are you going to help me stage the house? Are you going to go room to room and figure out where things should go, what I should put away? Not everybody does this, but most do. But you're going to want to make sure that, and that, by the way, this should happen at that appointment. You should actually have a walkthrough of the house. The realtor should actually be telling you, in a perfect world, this is what we would do with this room. This is what we would do with this room. And you're involved in that plan, because once they leave, they're going to be relying on you to actually change that room up a little bit. Meaning maybe you have to move some furniture, maybe you have to declutter a little bit. It's not always about spending a bunch of money and remodeling the house just to sell it. Sometimes it's about just the small things. Sometimes it's about just making sure the light bulbs are all working and they're the same tone of color. So what are you going to do to make sure that my house shows really well on day one when we're on the market? Well, actually before that, when we take pictures. And by the way, you should ask them exactly what their professional photography experience is if they're going to do it on their own, or who they're going to hire, and they should actually be sharing with you who they're hiring to do the pictures, and you should actually vet that company as well if it's a company or a private photographer. So number 10 is really important. How do you stay up to date on the local market changes? What do you do proactively to figure out what's going on with the market? Is it just that you're out showing one or two buyers? You actually want to work with somebody who has gathering knowledge and a ton of experience, is very connected, is seeing a lot of things. We run a team, we have 15 agents. So by just the default of the team, we're seeing a lot of activity because there's multiple contracts coming in every week. We're listing properties every week. Not saying you have to pick somebody who's running a team, but you want to make sure that if they aren't doing a lot of deals, that they are proactively staying on top of all the market changes locally and nationally and what's going on with the industry. So number 11 goes without saying, if you're going to list the house, you might need a little help. So you might have to have a landscaper come by, you might need a painter, you might need somebody to fix the hole in the wall that your kids, when they open the door too fast. There's usually a process to go room by room and collect and make a list of items that need to be completed that will help you sell the house for more money. Not complicated things always, sometimes little things, usually cosmetics that you're gonna wanna correct in any market to sell for top dollar. So do you have people that can help me do this stuff? Or are you just gonna give me a list and then walk away? Meaning, let's say the roof needs to be clean and the gutters too. Do you have the roofer that can come by and help me, or multiple roofers? Or am I stuck doing that on my own? So communication is huge. And so I would ask, what can I expect from you as far as updating me on what's going on with my property while it's listed? And before that too, by the way. So are we gonna text each other? Are we gonna call? When the house is on the market, what kind of an update can I get about the marketing efforts and the activity? So how are we going to communicate with each other, and what is that going to look like? So a good question to ask is how you handle property showings and open houses. So what do tours look like? What can I expect when people are coming in my house? How do I prepare for that versus the pictures? What do open houses look like? Get some clarity on those things where people are going to be visiting your house. What do you need to do as the homeowner to make sure it shows really well? And then how is the realtor going to communicate to you about those things? And that includes the most important part, which is, do I get feedback from all or most of the showings so that I know what people are thinking about my property? Sometimes it's something you can change and sometimes it isn't, but you deserve to know what each person thought of the property. And so you want to hire somebody who's going to chase that feedback, who's going to be on top of that, just in case there's that chance that there's something that you can correct. So I don't know anything about your property, but maybe you didn't fence the back property line or something like that. And that's the one thing that's keeping somebody from making an offer on your house, and you don't even know about it. So, but if you did, maybe you could do something about it. Maybe you could offer them a small credit, or maybe you could go get a bid from a contractor and at least know what the price is so that the next time it comes up, you could communicate that to the next party. And if you are willing to share the contractor and all the information, sometimes these little small nuanced things are what make a deal happen versus not happen. So make sure you get clarity around showings down to the level of the key box and the feedback and that sort of thing. Another great question to ask or get clarity on is, if there's a multiple offer situation, how do we navigate that together? So are you gonna send me all the offers and then make me read them all? Or are you gonna summarize those offers? Are you gonna put them on a spreadsheet? Are we gonna meet? What's that gonna look like? Because I can tell you that a lot of the times in a multiple offer situation, the agent can get overwhelmed, especially the newer agent, and that's not always a great outcome for you. So how is multiple offer situations going to be handled? And last but not least, make sure you do not leave this appointment without some clarity around, again, your fees, which includes the real estate fees and the commissions. Make sure that's described to you in some level of detail to where you walk away understanding the responsibilities that you have and your options. So we're in a different time in real estate now where brokers used to offer cooperating compensation to the other party, meaning you list the house, you pick an agent, there's likely going to be another agent involved, you sign a listing agreement, and out of that listing agreement, the commission is shared with the other party. So we've just now entered into a time where that is not a requirement and that is not necessarily the case. So make sure that you have a plan, you have a game plan and a strategy so that you maximize the exposure of your property, whether you're offering cooperating compensation or not. Again, it doesn't exist anymore, but what you're gonna see is people asking for commission cooperation compensation in the offer. So it'd go directly to them. It is very confusing, and we unpack this in a separate video on our channel. But make sure you understand what your responsibilities are around the fees and the commissions. So those are the 15 things, if you could, in a perfect world, ask the real estate agent that comes by your house that you're potentially gonna choose. And I'll leave you with this. Don't just choose the first person unless they make you feel overconfident, unless they've already, and here's the thing, they should have addressed a lot of these questions up front without you asking. All right, within the listing consultation presentation, if a lot of this came up and you do not have to ask, that is a very good sign, and it's probably you should hire them on the spot. Okay, if none of this was addressed, that's a red flag for you. You should ask some of the questions. You don't have to feel like you have to get out a piece of paper and ask them all, line by line, because it could be a little bit of an awkward situation. But more power to you if you want to do that, and just know that we are here to support you if you ever need anything in the Thurston County, Pierce County, Washington area.